Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are diving into the ideas of the Italian Marxist thinker Antonio Gramsci, especially his revolutionary thoughts on intellectuals and their role in society. We'll discuss how Gramsci distinguishes between urban and rural intellectuals and how he challenges the traditional idea that only certain people can be called intellectuals. His ideas are deeply relevant even today, especially for students of literature, political theory, and sociology. So, if you're preparing for exams or just curious about critical theory, this explanation will definitely help you. Let's get started. Question 1. In the modern world, the category of intellectuals understood in this sense has undergone an unprecedented expansion. Elucidate. Answer. In the modern world, Antonio Gramsci observes a significant expansion in the category of intellectuals. Traditionally, intellectuals were viewed as thinkers, philosophers, or scholars who worked primarily in education, literature, or philosophy. However, Gramsci redefines intellectuals as not just those who produce theoretical knowledge, but also those who perform organizing and directing functions in society. This includes roles in administration, management, media, science, and technology. With the growth of capitalism and industrialization, new types of intellectuals emerged: technical specialists, engineers, educators, and functionaries who play a crucial role in maintaining and developing the economic and social structure. These organic intellectuals are deeply connected to specific classes, particularly the rising bourgeoisie and the working class. Thus, the modern world has witnessed an unprecedented expansion of intellectuals, as their functions are no longer limited to thought and reflection, but extend to active participation in political and economic life. Question 2. What does Antonio Gramsci say about the intellectuals of the rural types? Answer. Antonio Gramsci refers to rural intellectuals as a distinct category, largely tied to the traditional peasantry. These include priests, small landowners, lawyers, doctors, and school teachers, individuals who often serve as intermediaries between the rural masses and the dominant ruling class. Gramsci sees these intellectuals as traditional intellectuals who maintain and reproduce the existing social order in rural areas. Unlike organic intellectuals who emerge from and serve the interests of a particular class, like the working class or bourgeoisie, rural intellectuals are often seen as detached from the economic base and aligned more with the status quo that typically support traditional values and acts as cultural and moral guides within rural communities. Gramsci argues that their role is crucial in sustaining hegemonic control in the countryside, often hindering progressive change and modernization. Question 3. How does Antonio Gramsci define the new type of intellectual and the mode of being of the new intellectual? Answer. Antonio Gramsci defines a new type of intellectual as someone who is not merely a thinker or a theorist, but also an active participant in practical life, someone who combines technical knowledge with political engagement. This figure, often associated with the rise of the working class and industrial society, is what Gramsci calls an organic intellectual. Unlike traditional intellectuals who are detached from productive labor, the new intellectual is closely tied to a specific class, especially the emerging proletariat, and works to articulate and organize its worldview. The mode of being of this new intellectual is rooted in praxis, a unity of theory and practice. He is not only involved in producing knowledge but also in transforming society. Gramsci emphasizes that the new intellectual must be a leader, a guide, and an educator who participates in shaping public consciousness and advancing social change. This shift demands a break from the elitist and contemplative tradition of intellectual life and a move toward a more collective, politically engaged, and socially responsible role. Question 4. All men are intellectuals, but not all men have in the society the function of intellectuals. Elucidate. Answer. In this famous statement, Antonio Gramsci challenges the traditional elitist notion of intellectualism. He asserts that all human beings possess intellectual capabilities because everyone engages in thinking, understanding, and interpreting their experiences. In this broad sense, every person is an intellectual. However, Gramsci distinguishes between being an intellectual in essence and having the social function of an intellectual. While everyone may think and reflect, not all individuals are granted the institutional or societal role of an intellectual. The function of intellectuals, such as teaching, advising, organizing, and leading, tends to be concentrated in specific roles and professions that have been historically privileged. This distinction is crucial in Gramsci's theory of hegemony, as it reveals how dominant classes maintain control by producing and positioning intellectuals to lead cultural and ideological discourse. Gramsci thus calls for the development of organic intellectuals from within the working class who can challenge dominant ideologies and lead social transformation from below. Next question is, what are the differences between the function of the urban intellectuals and that of the rural type intellectuals? Urban intellectuals Urban intellectuals are often associated with modern industries, political movements, and educational or technical institutions. They tend to be organic intellectuals emerging from and connected to specific classes, the bourgeoisie or working class. Their role involves active participation in shaping ideologies, organizing labor, producing culture, and leading social change. They are dynamic and adaptive, helping new social classes, especially in urban capitalist society, to maintain hegemony. Urban intellectuals often engage with political activism, media, and education to influence the public sphere. Rural type intellectuals, these are typically traditional intellectuals such as priests, local teachers, village lawyers, and notaries. They are linked to static agrarian communities and uphold the traditional values of the ruling class. Their their main function is to maintain the status quo, offering continuity and moral guidance within rural societies. They appear to be autonomous and independent but are in fact aligned with long standing dominant ideologies. Unlike their urban counterparts, they do not usually engage in revolutionary or transformative activities. Next question. What are the comments made by Antonio Gramsci on the act of distinguishing intellectuals from the non intellectuals? Gramsci critiques the conventional practice of sharply separating intellectuals from non intellectuals. He argues that this distinction is misleading and ideologically constructed. According to him, All men are intellectuals because everyone possesses the ability to think, analyze, and understand the world. However, not all people perform the function of intellectuals in society. That role is often reserved for specific social positions or classes. The traditional distinction serves to reinforce existing power structures, making intellectual roles seem exclusive and unreachable for the working class. Gramsci believes this distinction hides the fact that many so called non intellectuals engage in complex thought process through their daily labor and experiences. He advocates recognizing the intellectual potential of the masses and empowering organic intellectuals, those who rise from and represent their own class. Thus, Gramsci's views challenges elitist conceptions of intellect and encourages a broader, more democratic understanding of intellectual activity.